Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we'll have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by René Carayol. Good afternoon, or good evening. Yes, good afternoon, I should say.
It's a pleasure to be here, Pete. Looking forward to it.
Oh, listen, it's an absolute honor to have you on. So, René, give us a bit of background, if you would be kind enough, please, because I know you and listen, I've been following you for quite some time, and you've a lot of background. But who are you?
Yeah, I spend my time now. I've got this craziest job in the world. I'm the accidental executive coach. There's only one job in the whole business, in the whole organization, that has no training or development: the chief executive. And normally, it's a battlefield promotion. The chief executive has resigned, or they're leaving, or they're being lost, and you get thrust into the job immediately. The day you walk into the cockpit to fly the plane, you've never flown the plane before. And it's the best job in the world. It's the toughest job in the world. It's the loneliest job in the world. So I find myself sitting in the cockpit, waiting for the new pilot to come in, knowing the pilot has never flown the plane before. And my job is help you for your first 12 to 18 months to fly the plane. Sometimes coach, sometimes role model, whatever it takes to ensure that you're a success. And I do that all around the world. And FTSE 100 businesses, Fortune 500 businesses in America, multinational businesses, everywhere and anywhere. When I'm not doing that, I'm usually standing on a stage waxing lyrical about leadership. Something about leadership. I'm that leadership junkie. And prior to that, after leaving university, I went to work for Marks and Spencer, spent 10 years working for Marks and Spencer's, then did 3 years on the board of Pepsi in America, and then came back, did 5.5 years on the board of IPC magazines. 10 of us on the board bought the business, sold the business, and I retired for 2 weeks. And my wife kicked me back out, and I've been odd jobbing ever since, doing the coaching, doing the leadership. And recently, ever since the tragic death of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, I've spent the last 3-4 months helping chief executives and chairmen to better understand how they may move on this subject, opening up conversations around race at work, trying to create inclusive environments, trying to create a feeling of belonging for all of their people, trying to create a more even playing field for everyone, no matter what race, what faith, what background. And it's been challenging but brilliant work.
What is your take on the latter then? I mean, what's the best approach, do you think, or what's your intended approach on the Black Lives Matter?
So look, the week after the tragedy of George Floyd, my WhatsApp went ballistic. Buzzing all over the place, people ringing me, and it tended to be white, middle class, middle-aged men who were chairman or chief executives who I admire and respect, right? And obviously had a really good relationship with. And they were calling me up saying, I want to do something. I don't know what to do. I want to do something positive. I want to have a conversation. I want to see how my people feel. But I don't know where to start, and I'm paralyzed with fear of getting things wrong. So help. And I've been doing this. I was doing 15-minute coaching sessions for about 6 weeks. And the advice is still the same that's true today. Doing nothing is no longer an option. Being neutral isn't enough. Being non-racist isn't enough. We have to be anti-racist. And we need to start somewhere. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to be clumsy. You're going to make some mistakes. But everyone gets your intent. And it's a bit like learning to swim. Theory will get you so far. At some stage, you're going to dive in the water, and you're probably going to get a mouthful or a belly full of water. That's okay. You will learn how to swim, but you've got to get in the water first. You will make mistakes, but the only mistake is one you don't learn from. Not everyone will understand everything you've said, but everyone will understand how you've made them feel. It's intent, it's empathy, and it's not bravado, it's vulnerability. People realize that you're not an expert. In fact, none of us are experts. None of us get it right every day. But what we do know, this isn't a black issue. It's about all of us. And when we all come together, nothing can defeat us. As long as we stand apart, we can't win. And what I'm finding, my experience is people are coming together. But I suppose my biggest learning in all the places I've done this, since 4 weeks ago, I was invited to do a talk at Her Majesty's Prison, Pentonville. And it was for Black History Month. I turned up to do this with one of my team. He's 22, he's from Nottingham, he's white, and he's brilliant. And we walked into Pentonville Prison, and I forgot, because I've done it before, been there before, just how foreboding, dark, and unwelcoming prisons are. As we all say, so they should be. But for Adam, my teammate, it really hit him hard. We got to the prison chapel. 30 inmates had turned up for the talk, 25 black, 5 white. And just as I found in the boardroom, just as I found with the banks, just as I found with the multinationals, the pharmaceuticals, exactly the same. The bigger issue is generations more than race. There is a generation that just gets this. They get the language, they understand what's going on. They don't see the big divisions that others see. They're not as clumsy as our good friend Greg Clark, the chairman of the FA. They're nowhere near as ill-informed and as unprepared. They get it. And what we found, even amongst the older black inmates, there's a resistance to change. There's an out of touchness, if you like, that they just don't understand the world as moving. Some of the language that they use is objectionable. It's inappropriate. It's ill-informed. And it just speaks to how out of touch they really are. But you know what? Many of them have the right intent. We can educate. They can educate themselves. As long as they're curious and they want to learn, they want to be able to, there's no barrier there. It's where we meet the resistance when they don't want to change. They don't want to be educated. They're quite comfortable where they are. Overall, I'm massively optimistic. It's moving quickly and it's moving in the right direction. But you know, in order to make that moment into a movement, into a way of life, all of us need to be active.
Does that always come from leadership? I mean, a lot of people say, you know, every problem in a business is a leadership problem. I mean, do you agree with that? And does it always come from the top?
Well, leadership, yes, but not always from the top. They're two different things. Okay. There was a time when, so the biggest myth in Western developed societies is that leaders are at the top of the organization only. They're not. Managers are at the top of the organization. Leaders are everywhere. You know, the perennial question we get asked, I get asked, are leaders born or are leaders made? And I put it to you, neither. Leaders are found. And there are many leaders around who may not have the stripes, may not have the medals, may not have the status, may not have the job title. And what we look for is those who can influence and persuade without authority. They're your leaders. You know what it's like. You organise the social event for everyone in the department. One person, Sue organises it, and everybody turns up because Sue can influence and persuade. Bob organises it, and nobody turns up because he can't influence and persuade. Get a hold of Sue, find her. She's got the makings of a leader. Empower her. Because in times of change, you need the leaders. So yes, I do believe it's always a question of leadership. No, I don't believe it comes from the top.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's like it's Tipping Point. I'm trying to remember who wrote it. You do have social influencers or
absolutely fantastic book. Yeah. All his books are. And you know, and what Malcolm does brilliantly, he doesn't lecture us. It's not theory. It's practical stories that we all get. And you know, as I always say, that managers talk strategy, leaders tell stories. We learn through those stories. And it's precisely Tipping Point. We're finding our leaders in all shapes and sizes today, but the leaders change. So there is no nation being led by a woman that's managing the pandemic badly. The top 15 poorest ones, including ourselves here in the UK, are the alpha males. If the nation is led by an alpha male, the big personality, the need to be right, life and soul of the party, doesn't look at the data, not prepared to listen to the experts, dismisses social distancing, doesn't wear a mask, you get the sort of drift. We're in serious trouble. Whereas if we look at some of the female leaders who are a little bit more cautious, that much more decisive, listen to the experts, are data-driven, and most of all, they're empathetic. They walk in the shoes of their people. Is it a gender issue? No, it's about empathy. It's emotional intelligence, what we call EQ. Feeling what we feel.
It's an interesting point there. Do leaders, I mean, should they have an alpha gene in them? I mean, is that there, or is it more appropriate to be this day and age to be EQ driven, as you say? Or what's your take?
The trick is, the IQ we're born with is probably not going to change for the rest of our lives. Whatever your IQ is, that's it, mate. That's it. You're stuck with it. Your EQ, your emotional quotient, you can change. You can change it. You can learn it. And, you know, to me, when I coach emotional intelligence, and the way I see it is, if I was crude about it, it's super interpersonal skills, right? It's anticipating how your people are feeling. Being able to judge on which is the right gear to move the car into. And the more you practice it, it's just like driving a manual car. You do the gear changes without thinking. And if you don't get it right, the car tells you in no uncertain terms, it screams at you. When you walk into a room and your people are suffering and you don't get it, they'll tell you. And they may not tell you through words, arms might get folded, look down at their shoes, nudging each other. There's all these indicators that say to you, hang on a minute, you're not understanding how we're feeling. And what most people do is they respond to those signals. And you know, sometimes your people just don't turn up to work anymore. That's the ultimate protest. But all the indicators are there. And if you've got the right team, some of them will be brave enough to come and give you a tap on the shoulder and just say, do you know what? I know what you meant yesterday, but my God, it didn't go down well. You couldn't think about just turning that around. What we need today is leaders who aren't interested in the bravado of never being wrong, who will never say sorry, who will never say I lost the election, who will never ever say that, you know, I drove up to Durham and it was a mistake. They'll never say that. What you do want the best leaders to say, you know, the old story, the leader takes his team into the darkest jungle. There's malaria, it's sweaty, it's horrible. They're running out of water after 4 days, 4 nights. They're really uncomfortable. They can't wait to get through this jungle. The leader climbs up the tallest tree, looks around and shouts down to his team and says, guys, sorry, wrong jungle. Now, you may think that's the death of the leader, but in actual fact, it's not. It's a sign of strength to say, I didn't quite get it right. I've got it wrong, guys. People trust you when you fess up immediately. What they don't like is having to U-turn, 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 U-turn. They much prefer that you just say, do you know what? I got it wrong. That's a sign of strength. Fessing up today. That's leadership.
Have you a skill of finding a leader?
Do you know, it's as I said, the bit that I look for is those who can influence and persuade in their own way. It's no longer, it's not the most charismatic. It's not the best communicator. It's the one that people trust. So I think the toughest thing and the ultimate thing that people breed is trust. And there was a time, if I go back to when I first started work, we say, they've only been here 6 months, I don't know if I trust them yet. Those days are long gone. You haven't got 6 months, you haven't got 12 months. The world is moving too quickly. So what I coach leaders to do is what we call extended trust. You give trust from day one. The person joins your team, you give them your trust. It may or may not work out, but the 80-20 rule, Pareto, 80% of the time, it's fine. 20%, you're going to get let down. Act on the 20%. But most people, if you trust them, they will go the extra mile for you. And everyone knows when they're trusted. when you're empowered, you can make the decisions. Someone's not looking over your shoulder. If it goes wrong, they'll support you. If you're stuck, you know you can go to them. If you're having a bad day, they'll be there for you. And it's not to say that you won't challenge, but in this world of trust, you earn the right to challenge by support, challenge. And if you do support first, when you go to challenge, it doesn't need to be the heavy duty headbutt. It can just be, Pete, you're better than that, aren't you? And because they've supported you for so long, guess what you're going to do? Go and try your damn best. But trust is what we do. So I find leaders all the time, of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all shapes, of all sizes. There's no model anymore. And it's important because there was a time when the person at the top of the business, the top of the organization, called all the shots. They made all the decisions. They solved all the problems. They initiated any activity. The world's just too fast moving, too complex, and the markets are too unforgiving for one person to do that all up on their own anymore. So we talk about the team. It's no longer feasible for one person to be that broad. It's totally feasible for a team to be that broad. And in many respects, that was behind my latest book, Spike, where I believe that absolutely every single person is blessed with an outstanding strength. And some of us, it's one or two or three. And for far too many years, be it at school, be it in business, you'd get your performance review, your annual appraisal. And it would go along the lines of, here are the 2 or 3 things you're outstanding at, and here's 127 you're useless at. Why don't you spend the next year focusing on the 127 areas for improvement? Who wants to do that? How about if we turn it on its head, and for the next year, you're going to focus on the 3 things you're outstanding at. And you get that beautiful Spike virtuous circle. The things I tend to be good at are the things I tend to really enjoy. The things I tend to really enjoy are the things I tend to be really good at. And when I say spikes, I don't mean applied learning. It's not chemistry, physics, geography, history. It's very different things. And I always advise people, go and ask a loved one. Don't ask the people you work with. Don't get any management for it. Not someone who's competitive with you at work. Find someone who's got unconditional love for you. Mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, niece, nephew, uncle, husband, wife, children. And they may say, you're generous. You've got eyes in the back of your head. You're always there for me. You're a great communicator. You're good at fixing things. You're just the best listener I've ever met. Whatever it is they say to you, take it seriously. Once you've worked your spikes out, that's what you build your career path around. It's the pathway to success.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it's such a fresh take on it, as opposed, as you say, here's the shopping list of things to beat yourself up with. You go the reverse and you say, focus on your skills, right? Makes a lot of sense.
Here are the 2 or 3 things I'm really, really good at. It's the pathway to success.
What's your superpower then, René?
So, God, I've had about 20 odd appraisals in my life at work. And I've got about 130 odd things I am useless at. And I'm very clear on those. But 3 things were in every single appraisal I've ever had, they found 3 strengths. I could do the big picture. I could communicate a bit. And I was usually the most enthusiastic or passionate in the team. And it took me some time to realize that how crushingly true was that. It took me a long time to realize that I needed to do a job that needed those 3 things as the key strengths. So now as I do my coaching, I go around the world speaking about leadership, you need to be able to do the big picture. You need to be able to communicate a bit, and it takes a hell of a lot of enthusiasm. So I never work a day in my life. Do a job that you love, you never work a day in your life. I just wake up every day doing the things I love. I retired many, many years ago. This is just fun. Endless, endless fun. But I've got a team of 10 people. They are brilliant at the things that I'm useless at. They are superb at all the things I'm completely rubbish at. I'm the best initiator you can find. I've got 100 ideas a day. They scramble around finishing them off, making them look brilliant, tying the bow on my crazy, mad idea. I'm the most positive, optimistic person in the team. So I've got 3 people who say, hang on a minute. Can we just ask a few more questions? Can we just challenge and think this through a bit? I know what I need to be surrounded by. And I've got the numbers person, the bean counter, the person that is so fixated on getting the numbers right. Because I'm not really that interested. Numbers don't create excitement. Every one of us is brilliant at something. Not one of us is brilliant at everything. Let's forget trying to be brilliant at everything. Focus on 2 or 3 things. Transform your life for the better. Yes. Buy Spike. It's just that simple little guide to help you identify your spikes.
It does make so much sense. I mean, I suppose it is that fire in your belly. It's that thing, focus on the thing you're great at, focus on your greatness, your and accept that some of the stuff you're just, you can't crochet, or you may be terrible at making a cup of tea or whatever, but that's okay too.
Especially if you surround yourself with people who it's their spike. So every one of you is coming in every day to do the things you're brilliant at. It's a recipe for success.
That's so true. Tell me this, just going back a bit. I mean, in your appraisals and all that, I mean, going back to school, what were your school reports saying then? What were they saying about you?
Do you know, I spent far too many years with imposter syndrome. That even if the scores were really good, I didn't believe it. I spent all my time waiting to be found out. And it was at school, at my first jobs I ever had, it took years for me to believe that I could. And it's interesting, Pete, because I've never seen anyone fulfill their potential, their leadership potential, without the intervention of a mentor. And it's only when, and I can remember 2 or 3 teachers who just believed in me. And, and I remember the biggest intervention was when there was no way I was going to stay on at school. Well, what would I do that for? For failure. And when it came, it took the year teacher, or year master, to say, what the hell do you think you're doing leaving? Well, there's no point me taking A-levels. There's every point. You're going to university. I thought, what's he been smoking? But you know what? Without their encouragement, without their support, and this goes for all the things throughout my career, and I think for everyone who listens to this podcast, is there'll be a time, there'll be a moment when you don't quite believe in yourself. It happens to all of us. That low point when something's happening, you just realize, you say to yourself, I'm just not good enough. And it's sometimes really hard to get out of that depression, that low point, that anxiety. And you end up not wanting to talk to anyone, not wanting to tell anyone, you just feel terrible. Or it's someone's just said to you that you're useless. Or it all went wrong on the big day. But someone somewhere comes along and believes in you. Just someone, and it could be someone close, it could be a stranger. I've been lucky to be complete strangers. We just come over, and at a moment when I was just starting to believe the imposter syndrome, they reached out and touched. And somehow had the wherewithal to ask them for an hour a month. It's an hour of their time every month, just to give me a damn good listening to. Just be there for me. And it's been transformational for me throughout my career. And the advice I'd give from what I've learned is aim as high as you can, or even higher than that if you can. Chief executive chairman or even higher, because no one ever asked them. You go your way to ask them because no one asked them. Ask them an hour of their time and choose someone who does things or behaves and does things that you think, I'd like to be able to do that. I wish I could communicate like that. I wish I could command the room like that. I wish people responded to me in that way. Choose them for those reasons, but aim really high. Then take over organizing the 1 hour, setting the agenda, ensuring that you meet. and you watch how it transforms you. And you watch how it transforms them. Because in a mentoring relationship, there's the reverse mentoring that you can't stop. And I found that I was trying to walk in their shoes and they would learn how to walk in my shoes and we'd educate each other. But I've had half a dozen of the most amazing relationships. People you would never have expected just helped transform me to have the confidence, have the self-belief, etc., etc., etc.
Are you, when you talk about that process, you know, and that's almost that sort of allowance for you to see, is it to see yourself? I mean, is that what you're essentially doing? You're trying to find the best method of reflecting yourself back in and someone to be there with you?
Sometimes, but you know, so I'll give you two different examples. I spent 10 years at Marks and Spencer, and one of my duties, my first team that I ran, we looked after the audio-visual stuff in the conference rooms. Through that, I met a board director by accident, and I asked him whether he'd mentor me. And he did for 3 and a bit years. I was promoted 4 times in 3 years. Because it's a big, complex institution. At the time, I had 120,000 employees around the UK, Europe, and the world. I came from the most humble of origins. To get on in the organisation, it was a very British, middle-class, mid-sized management organisation. And every month we'd meet for a chicken salad in his office. He'd give me a damn good listen to, and things started to change. My vocabulary broadened. I better understood how the unwritten laws of the organisation worked. I started to learn the things that were disabling me from advancement. I learned how to say the right things, be in the right places, not to make myself unpromotable. And the more I listened, the more I learned, the more he guided, the more he criticized me in a positive way. And just by being that close and listening to him and learning, I changed. I changed for the better. Same thing when I went to Pepsi. Met a different mentor. And I've been lucky enough to find them along the way. And what it does, it accelerates your learning. If you're up for learning, if you're curious, and you know, we say that the illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who can't read and write. It's those who can't learn, unlearn, relearn. And the learn, unlearn, relearn is what makes the leaders of tomorrow. The minute you think that you've got nothing to learn, you're gone, aren't you?
I was going to ask you, what's the best thing you've unlearned? Or
that I could do things on my own. I knew the answer. I say today, collaboration is the new leadership. When we come together as a team, teams of the future. When I learned that being a lone wolf had its limitations, trying to be the cleverest person in the team, trying to be the person that knew all the answers, that's a waste of time. And I had to take that hard lesson from know it all to learn it all. And I learned the hard way that the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. No lone wolves. When you're in that pack and you feel that everyone's fully committed to each other's success, we've got each other's backs, there's no better feeling in the world. When you know that as soon as you come in, you're part of something special. You run together, and if you're not the fastest, no one's left behind. Every voice is heard. And that full commitment to each other's success is incredibly inspiring. And it's what I try to do for the people I coach. Build that team. Build that team that everyone feels as though they're exposing their spikes. And when they come together, they feel unbeatable. You know, as we say, to quote Jose Mourinho, great players don't win trophies, great teams win trophies.
So true. And when you're coaching, I mean, are you able to do some of that intuitively? Can you see the powers and strengths in people that they necessarily can't? Is it giving them a damn good listening to? Or what is it that's your style, I suppose?
So when you take all your coaching courses, coaching certificates, I speak at a lot of coaching conferences, and I upset a lot of the coaches. Because the first rule of coaching, when you're being taught, is number one, you don't need to know what the person does in order to coach them. That doesn't work in my line of work. And you're not there to intervene, you're there to support. That doesn't work in my line of work either. I'm an interventionist. And because it's mainly the chief executive, you need to know what they do. If you don't know what a profits warning is, you're going to struggle to coach anyone, to understand the pressure that they come under. If you don't know what it's like to fire the person you hired as the chief financial officer, who has supported you for the last 6 years and done a great job, but the board have lost all faith in them, you need to know how that feels and why. You can't coach someone out of it. You coach them how to do it. And sometimes you show them how to do it. And as I was saying before, that leadership's tough. Lots of people argue with me on this, but at the top of the house, in the chief executive, leadership is tough. And the lesson I've learned. So I was privileged enough to work with Ralph Hammers, who's the chief executive of ING Bank. When Ralph was appointed, I started working with him the day before he started. And he was a 43, the youngest ever appointee to chief executive. He was chairman and chief executive of ING. He wasn't a direct report of his predecessor. He was a direct report of a direct report. So he came from literally nowhere. 43, he stayed for 7 years. He's the youngest and the longest serving. And I came back at the end, having worked with him at the start, came back at the end, and I did his final interview. And it was great to go back to Amsterdam after kicking off with him. And I remember the last question I asked him, what have you learned in these 7 years? And he shared some great stuff. But the one thing that I'll never forget, he said, you can delegate just about everything. You can empower just about everyone. There's one thing that never leaves the desk of the chief executive. Let's face it, the tough calls. All the tough calls remain with the chief executive. Everything else you can delegate down. But no, you can keep that. Thank you very much for that one. You can hang on to that one. Thank you. And that's why leadership will always be tough, and it should remain so. Because when you're in those big leadership positions, you are affecting people's lives and people's livelihoods. You better be good at it. You better care about it. You better have some empathy. You better be able to walk in the shoes of others. You better take those decisions seriously. And if you're having to make the tough call that affects someone's livelihood, it better affect you. You can't be indifferent about it. And I know the people I coach, they don't sleep that night. They don't sleep the night before. Because they know they're making tough calls about good people. You still have to make the call, but never lose the fact that these are real people who may be really good at what they do, but they're not the right person at this particular moment. It is tough. And I like to think that the way I'm coaching them, there's one thing I always say to them is, never move so far away that you cannot hear a dissenting voice. That's the most dangerous in the world, Boris. Believe me, it's one of the most dangerous. When you're surrounded by people who always agree with you, pause and reflect. If you're not hearing a dissenting voice, go find one, quick. The world is not that everyone around you agrees with you. Once you get into that situation, there's trouble ahead.
It's that deadly echo chamber, isn't it? You know, it's like...
Oh, you better believe it. And there's a lot of them around at the moment. They tend to be with heads of state.
Should you be gathering naysayers, haters, skeptics? I mean, is that a...
No. Let's just... On these transformational journeys, you need a band of believers. You don't need a bunch of cynics. And I think if you're inside the tent, you believe in the trajectory, you believe in the direction of travel, you believe in me, then you've earned the right to challenge me. If you're outside the tent throwing rocks, stay outside the tent. If you're inside the tent, you've earned the right to challenge. You do it in the right way. And I think it's a tough old world anyway. And those close to you should be able to say, Pete, not sure about this one. Can we just think this through again? And you should be able to say, they're as loyal as it gets, but they've earned the right to challenge me. And I need to listen. I may not change my mind, but I need to give you a damn good listening to. And I think there's not enough of that. If we look at, certainly in our government in the UK, there's not enough of that.
Yeah, it's... Why does power come when you listen?
Do you know, it's interesting where power lies. In every team, in every institution, every organization, every business, identifying where power lies is not easy. But if you don't, you will trip up very early. And it lies in some mysterious places. And part of my job when I come in is to understand where it is and ensure it's infused in the chief executive. They don't need to be the sole receptacle for power. But they need to have access. You know, sometimes it's in the boardroom. Sometimes it's with the chairman. Sometimes it's the longest serving member of the executive. It can be in many different and mysterious places for many different things. But getting access to it, ensuring it's wielded appropriately is key. And it can be some very odd places at times.
When you're understanding that part, do you like to sit with someone to understand their power? Can you sense in terms of that side, or do you pre-research the person?
So I think everything in the role I do, no matter how much research you do, nothing prepares you better than the intimacy of the meeting and the relationship. And sometimes I'll walk into the room and it just doesn't work. They know it, I know it. And we'll both find a gracious way of, not this time. So I remember the first chief executive I ever had the privilege of coaching was Matt Barrett, chief executive Barclays Bank. I'd facilitated a session for him and his ExCo, his executive committee, and him and his direct reports. There's about 10. They were running Barclays. They were based in Lombard Street in the city at the time. And you know when it goes down well. I didn't mess up this time. It was okay. And I could see that me and him got on. And in those days, people smoked in the boardroom. So in the boardroom, and he's smoking Dunhill. And it seems like a lifetime ago now to be smoking in the boardroom. And he's smoking away, but I noticed that he laid back, hardly said anything, but he was in complete control of the environment. And there was a bunch of big hitters in the room. Bob Diamond was one of his direct reports. John Varley was both future chief executives. Gary Hoffman, who's chairman of Monzo, chairman of the Premier League at the moment. They were Gary ran Barclaycard, Bob ran the investment bank, John was CFO. It was a very powerful lineup, and loads of great guys in there, and no women to just give you a flavour of the time. Anyway, I got a call that Matt wanted to see me, and it's all about chemistry. So I came back and I was told, got to reception. They said, if you get to the 5th floor, Matt's assistant will come and pick you up and take you to his office as soon as you come out the lift. Came out the lift, Matt's standing there, not his assistant. He bundles me back into the lift and he says, let's go and have something to eat. And I'm thinking, we're going to his favourite restaurant, or we go down to the basement and it's the canteen. It's about 2:15, 2 o'clock, 2:15, towards the end of the lunch break. We get in the canteen, he just picks up a tray, gives it to me. He goes in the queue and we queue along. We chooses the bits we want to eat. He pays for it. And he looks around and specifically goes, we sit down there. At the other end is members of the catering team. So obviously, this surprises me, obviously. But he'd done this on purpose, as slick as it gets. We're sitting down eating, and the women from the catering team are at one end, and we're at one end. And then he just, in the most languid and laid back and genteel way, he says, excuse me, have you ever met this new chief executive that's joined? He'd been there about 3 months. Have any of you met this new chief executive? They burst out laughing. They said, chief executive in the canteen, you're having a laugh. And they all giggled and laughed away. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, you are cool. You are so cool. So he carried on, he's asking them questions, having a big conversation. As we're getting up to go, and he knew I would do this. He just knew I would. And I think it was a test. As we're leaving, I went over to him, I said, you do know who that is, don't you? And they said, who? I said, Matt Barrett, the new chief executive, which was precisely what he wanted me to do, and I did it. But by the time we got back upstairs to his office, his PA says to him, I hear you was eating in the canteen. Barclays Bank grapevine working brilliantly. Chief executive had started to move the culture already. But the fact that I'd asked the question, we got on like a house on fire. And what a great way of testing the chemistry. I was able to read him and understand what he wanted me to do. And it was a sort of a fantastic relationship with Barclays, because after Matt Barrett, he gave me to John Varley when he became chief executive. I had a fabulous time working with him. Didn't quite hit it off with Bob, left for when Bob Diamond took over, and came back when Anthony Jenkins was there and looked after Anthony. That's all chemistry.
What have you found, I suppose, at that level, what have you found the most useful way to interact? I mean, is there a sort of almost a set of commandments almost that you sort of work with?
So this is why I say I'm the accidental coach. Most of the people I've worked with, I end up having an office, being on site most of the time. I think the new age coach, which I like to think I might be, is you can't coach the chief executive without coaching their direct reports as well. Because you've got to make the team work. Got to ensure this is their team. Remember what I said to you before, that the things they're not so good at need to be played out in the wider team. So if they're not the best communicator in the world, ensure we've got a couple of really good communicators there to pick up some of the stuff for them. If they're quite buccaneering and risk embracing, ensure we've got some counterbalances there. People are going to challenge and be a bit more cautious, a bit more risk averse, a bit more process driven. And so I tend to do all of them. And I think the bit that I've realized that makes it work is you've got to win the trust of everyone quickly. And I become part of the team. And they give me permission to support all of them, but most of all to challenge all of them. And no, it's not lost on anyone. I work for the chief executive. You know, and so, on some occasions, I feel like Robert Duvall with Marlon Brando in Godfather 1. You know, that I stand there behind it. But most of the time, it's not like that. I might be the access to the chief executive. If they want the messages they maybe don't want to tell them themselves, they'll come to me. I'll ensure they're delivered. But really, I see my role as making a high performance team, building trust, and I've got everyone's back.
That's such a, is it a powerful position? Is that a right? Is that a fair thing to say?
It's a weak one. It's really weak. I don't know. Look, I think it's a position of great privilege. And it demands confidentiality, trust, subtlety. Sometimes I'm the enforcer. Sometimes I'm giving the pep talk. I tend to know the birthdays, the wedding anniversaries, the bar mitzvahs, the graduation ceremonies. You know, and you get to know people in a way that is quite special and quite privileged. But I also know if someone's not having their best day.
When are you having your best day, René?
Nearly every day. I only do the 3 things I'm good at. So it's interesting, Pete, because I say that facetiously, but it's quite true. I surround myself with people. All my team are much younger than me. They're more agile than I am mentally. My job is to be their coach. Their job is to do the things I'm not so good at. And I might have the odd bad day. I have a bad day when my clients have a bad day. But normally, I rarely get called in when things are going brilliantly. When I get the call, if I've got the emergency to go in there, I'm bomb disposal. So if I'm called in to go urgently, then it's still exhilarating. It's still adrenaline. And nothing feels better than if you've had a hand in making a bad day better. There's nothing better than that. Nothing makes you sleep better than it could have been a lot worse today. And that's where I get my kicks. And I get the opportunity to do a lot of those. They don't always come off. But I suppose when my client realizes that I'm prepared to walk into the fire and stand next to them, that's great. And I've been around the block so many times, I don't even notice the fire. Get burnt, but I don't notice the fire.
Shake yourself off, stand up, and walk off.
Pat them off later on you.
It's very Mel Gibson or whatever, one of these action movies. Like you sort of come
it is.
in with
it. Later on, you realise that your leg got blown off.
It's like you're walking with a hobble. It's like I'm missing from the knee down. Oh, I love it. What I mean, are you, in terms of your own self-care and your own that side? I mean, are you able to self-reflect inwardly, or do you lean on? You know, is that what your team of people around you is? Is that enough of a reflection for you?
You know, I would love to say that I do everything to moderation. No, I'm everything to excess. You know, moments of self-reflection, not enough. Do you know, sometimes I remember doing the president of the World Bank, Jim Yong Kim, fabulous guy. 3 years flying to Washington, D.C. 2 to 3 times a month. Each trip being minimum of 2 days, usually 3 or 4 days. And Dulles Airport in Washington is not a place you want to visit on a regular basis. And but because it was such an exhilarating gig, and we were trying to fix his team at the start. Once you start to see the green shoots of recovery and it starts to change, it's a drug. I couldn't stop. But if I look, I hammered myself on that 3 years. And year 2, I should have stopped and had a hip operation. I didn't, because I knew I'd be out for God knows how many months. And I just kept going. The limp got so bad, I could hardly bloody walk at the end of it. And my kids had to say to me, that's it. Game off, that's it. But otherwise I would have limped and even swum across the Atlantic, because you get that committed to your clients. I mean, it's great. I'm making it sound like it's really hard. It's fabulous. When you see the fruits of success. The team is more cohesive. They interdependent. The building of trust. The fact that they can say things in the open amongst their colleagues and know that it's a safe haven. That they're different styles in the way they contribute. Some people will shout from the rafters. Others will be a little bit quiet and may not want to speak till they've thought it through that night. When they've realised that's all accommodated, there's psychological safety. It's a hell of a feeling.
Have you a question or something you do that actually is a bit of a litmus test for you to see where things are at?
So one of the things I like to do, I was doing this morning actually, is just walk the building and watch the team members at play without them knowing. Sit at the back of the room, watch them. Watch them from a distance. So I always say that before I take on any client, give me 30 minutes sitting in reception. Just doing nothing but sitting in reception. Receptions tell you so much. And you know, if I exaggerate a little bit to make the point, from the leader that walks in on their iPhone, talking away, no eyes for anyone, no recognition, no good morning, no greeting, walks across the reception into the lift, still talking on their phone, no contact with anyone, doesn't greet anyone. Everyone's really nervous because they know they're the boss or someone really senior. That's a particular culture. You know, culture starts at the top. To the other extreme, which would be it takes the chief executive 15 minutes to traverse reception. Because when they come in, it's, hi Pete, how's Molly's graduation? Hi Dave, how's the bar mitzvah at the weekend? And they've got a little word for everyone. But guess what they're doing? They're fueling culture. They're oxygenating trust. And it takes them 50, and in the lift, they want to talk to everyone. They give everyone a damn listen. Guess how people feel when that happens, as opposed to the moron who says nothing to anyone, is so interested in their phone. It's culture. And what I try and do is coach the latter. First names count. Take an interest in your people. And what I always try to do is once every week to find that hour with nothing in the diary and just wander the building. Go to another building, wander the building with no to-do list, no progress chasing, just wander around and meet people, give them a damn good listening to. It works wonders for you, but guess what it does for them? Especially when, oh my God, it's the chief executive. And even better, when they meet you the next time around, they've remembered your name. You know what that does. It just starts to humanize the whole organization. And if the chief executive is doing it, then everybody starts to do it. And I always say that as a chief executive, you're the role model for culture and values. If you start coming in at 11 o'clock and leaving at 4, guess what happens in the building? If you come in at 6 in the morning and leave at midnight, guess what happens? You have a responsibility because you are the ultimate role model. Use it well.
It's a very interesting point there in terms of, I suppose, mental health. Everything else that's going on at the moment is, how do you maintain a balance? Because obviously being at the top there's a lot, right? You know, but how do you maintain a balance that you don't, as you mentioned before, you burn out, you overdo it? Is there a method?
Part of my job is to give that support, that feedback, and to be in touch with their partners, their family, to ensure I know how they feel about things. And, you know, when you get to that elevated, rarefied position, remember, it's less than 0.1% of the population ever get to be chief executive. And before you know it, it's sucking everything out of you. And I remember when I was leaving Marks and Spencer so many years ago, the average length of service of a chief executive in America was over 10 years. And in Europe, it was 12 years. It's 4 in America, it's just under 5 here now, and going down. Because technology means we can do so much more, so much quicker. And the stress, the pressure No one can do it for 10 years anymore without. And I think, whereas we used to say 18 months on your CV, you're a butterfly. Well, 18 months, that butterfly. Now, if we see 5 years, we think learn, unlearn, relearn. Can we unlearn you? Now, the old age, it's not look good at my CV, I leave it here. Forget that's nonsense now. You can give so much in 18 months. Nearly a lifetime from where it was before. So sometimes after 2 or 3 years, I'm having to counsel some of my leaders, we now need to think about your successor. We now need to think about moving on. Now the transition period, and what we really love to do is have 2 or 3 potential successors in the team and start to move down lots of the big heavy lifting. Give them a chance. So what we'll do is 6 months getting to know it, 3 years heavy duty activity, and then the climb down, the rub down, the slow down. So you'll see that you're doing less and less. You're giving other people the chance to do it, see how they're good at it. And if you can do that bit, the climbing up, the plateauing, and then to come down, where you become coach. You're not on the pitch so much now. You're on the sidelines coaching others to do it, and create that culture of coaching. And that gives us longevity. But I think part of my job is to notice, to be really aware when the little spikes of temper, the impatience, the solemn moments where they go quiet for a bit, where the performance drops, where putting on a bit of weight, or the headaches, the stop doing small talk, isolated in the office for long periods. All these things are my job. What I try and do is get the team to do it as well. And not just for the chiefs, but for each other. And what we create is a support system that everyone's looking out for each other. And in times like the pandemic, where we're geographically split and isolated, so you don't notice that someone, instantly you don't notice that someone's a little quiet. You know, they're a bit solemn, or they're a bit sharp. You're not noticing it. And one of the things I do with one of my leads, every Friday morning, she gets her phone, not Zoom, not Teams, not Google Hangouts, because they can be as intense and add to the pressure as everything else. But she just spends the Friday morning making phone calls. No agenda, no to-do list, no progress update. We used to do management by walking around, management by phoning around. Just, hi, Pete. It's Louise. No, just want to have a chat. How are you? I can't tell you how wonderfully that's picked up. Oh, Louise called me this morning. What does she want? Nothing. Just checking up I'm okay. That's so important. And we should do that. And I say to all the team, especially in these times, look out for each other, look after each other. Look out for each other, look after each other. And it's the message I give on the Black Lives Matter. Look out for each other, look after each other. There's nothing more powerful than, and we call it inclusive leadership. Everybody in, nobody out. Believe in everyone. Go out of your way to touch everyone in your team. Ensure they're okay. In the times of the pandemic, what isolation can bring. And we're used to being part of a team that is fast moving, it's interactive, it's tactile. And all of a sudden, you're switching on at 7:30 to Zoom. It's so intense that you sometimes don't even leave for a coffee. You're not switching off till 8 p.m. at night. It's not the fun it was the first 3 or 4 weeks when we thought, hey, working from home, how good is this? Now it's living at work. Different dimension.
Who are some of the standout leaders that you would look at, or you look at their traits and really sort of are remarkable, as you might put it?
So 2 responses. So the first one is the generic one. The model for today's leaders that I would say that works better than anything else, think about mothers at home. Just think for a moment about mothers at home who maybe have no job title, no formal training, have all the authority you could ever want. They have emotional intelligence coming out of every pore. They know the different strokes for different folks, when to coax, when to cajole, when to confront, when to put boundaries in, when to sanctions, when to challenge, when to support. The tone of what they see and what they know, intuitively, they know that every one of their charges, not just the children, could be husband, could be mother-in-law, aunt, niece, nephew. They seem to know precisely how to keep them in check. They know when to go towards and when to back off. They know when to raise the tone of voice, when to lower it. So it's genteel and friendly. They're very visible. They're always there. You can count on their support. You have their trust. This is the new age leader. And I think, but it's not about gender. It's about empathy. And if I look at Nelson Mandela, it's about as good as it gets. 27 years incarcerated, jailed by his enemies and forgave them when they released him. Unbelievable. Everyone said there'd be a bloodbath. There wasn't. One thing he stood for that I fundamentally believe: we are stronger together. Our difference is our strength, and our strength is our difference. Everybody in, nobody out. And that sort of inclusive leadership, wow, do we need that today? America's polarized politics, Britain's polarized politics, Europe's polarized politics. This is what we need. We're desperate for it.
It is that. I mean, is there a place for polarity, or do you think it's...
Look, there's a place for disagreement.
Hmm.
Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I need to hate you. You know, as we say that so no one was born a racist. If you're taught to hate, you can learn to love. And I just think that just because we disagree doesn't mean that we can't get on. And we need the ability to disagree. Because, you know, so one of the things I've been fighting for some time now, if we look at many of the boards of directors, they've become homogenous. The recruits to the board are friends of the friends of the chairman. They look alike, think alike, studied alike, which means that they come to the similar decisions very quickly. They align very quickly. That seems to make life easy, but is that what your shareholders deserve? Easy, quick groupthink? Or do we need to think about cognitive diversity? Bringing people from different backgrounds, it's going to be harder. They'll challenge more. They'll have different ideas. Harder to align, better quality decisions. McKinsey's groundbreaking 2020 research on diversity has shown that diverse boards add 34% to the bottom line. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? So you need that level of positive tension, healthy tension. You need the new ideas. You need some scary people. Where are the new ideas coming from? The scary people that don't look like us, think like us, or behave like us. But our strength is the difference is the strength. But it means you need a special sort of leader who's not afraid of being challenged, who's not afraid of dissenting voices, who's not afraid of someone asking them to think yet again. But you know what? Surely that's what we're after. Not the easiest decisions, but the best decisions. Call me a romantic.
What pulls the best out of you, René? I mean, is it the challenge? Is it the opportunity to make, or what fires you up?
The things that others said couldn't get done.
Hmm.
The real challenge is when Mandela said that everything's impossible until it's done. That's me, if it can't be done, get me in. And, you know, what I've found is that everyone has a story to tell, but not many people know how to tell the story. As they say, until the lions have their own storytellers, the tales of the hunt will always favour the hunter. So I like to help people to tell their stories. Within their stories lies their truth. Within their truth lies their contribution to the team. We bring all of those things together, and it gets back to the strength of the wolf is the pack, the strength of the pack is the wolf. And if I can help bring the team together to be more than the sum of the parts, to make everyone feel as though they're part of something special, that feeling that they belong, nothing's impossible. Can do anything. But it's that team of different attributes, different voices, different backgrounds, different faiths, different races. Hey, it's the world we want to live in.
Is that your calling, do you think? Is that where your sort of true purpose lies?
It's the one I hear louder than any other at the moment. So, you know, Pete, if you come from where I come from, for far too long, for way too long, I found myself wanting to fit in. That having a microaggression, a situation of unconscious bias, I had so many through my career that I'd ignore them because I'd be feeling that it's career limiting to say anything, or I'll be labelled difficult. Since George Floyd, I've had to accept a new responsibility. When you're at my vintage, you've been through what I've been through. It's my responsibility to be more assertive about race, to be more intentional about the outcome, and to try and build that better Britain. And the only way is together. And the whole allyship thing, things aren't going to change just because black people feel they should. Things are going to change because we all believe it should. Maybe that's my call.
Oh, well, listen, it makes sense.
Alongside Chelsea winning the Champions League again, of course.
We all have to have our aspirations. What's been a really proud moment for you?
Birth of my children, obviously. Birth of my two kids. But also the first time I met Nelson Mandela. Just breathtaking, awe-inspiring, just chilling, I suppose. You know, I've been lucky enough to meet some amazing leaders. I've worked with heads of state, I've worked with chief executives, and you have to pinch yourself sometimes for some of the things that, some of them places I get myself into by sheer accident. So a few weeks ago, it was announced that Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, had won a landslide election. He was the youngest ever, 37 appointee, and I was lucky enough to work with him in October 2017. Okay, and elections in Jamaica are 1 or 2 votes only. Is the difference. He got a 39-seat majority landslide. When we worked together, there was one thing, one overall vision, to create 100,000 new jobs for Jamaica. They hit that this year. He called a snap election, bang, and he's in. We agreed that 3 years ago. Guess how that makes me feel? And it's those little things that you think, I had a tiny little part to play in that. And it's just, and every time I see one of the leaders I've had the privilege of working with do something really special, that's what it is, really great. So Ralph Hammers, I worked with him at ING. After 7 years, he's gone on to be chief executive at UBS Bank. Wow. That's just, you can't beat that. Just Jim Yong Kim, president of the World Bank, he left and he's now working with a bunch of guys on cures, vaccines for the pandemic. And look at it coming out thick and fast. And he was an authority, could see around corners, but his real calling card was pandemics. And he needed to get out of the World Bank to be able to do that. He did, and he's done that. That's nothing beats that.
It's so powerful, isn't it? Really, that letting people. I suppose and going back to your book, really on Spike, there, finding those things that you excel at. I mean, are people always aware of their strengths? I mean, or is
Never
that
are.
something? Okay.
Never ever are. Never ever are. And I think also the things that people would see as their strengths tend to be the exams they've passed, the jobs they do. It's where they haven't self-selected. I'm an actuary. I'm really good at actuarial thinking. I'm a physicist. Blah, blah, blah. I'm more basic than that. And you can see in the 6-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, to the 70-year-olds. And it's just the natural things that you've got a gift for. And the trick is to discover that as early as you can. So I'm doing a talk at London Business School for the Careers Fair for the MBA class of 2019. As I'm leaving, I finish my talk, I'm walking out, and this young woman comes and taps me on the shoulder. She says, I love that talk. Could you come and do it at my school, please? She's so compelling. She won't let go. She's tenacious. 2 weeks later, I'm driving up to Ilford in the east side of London, and I'm thinking, right, I've got to give this talk to 16 and 17-year-olds. Wrong assumption. I pull up at the school. It's Ainsley Wood Primary School. She said we're doing a careers fair, so I'm thinking 16. When I go in, they lead me to the infant school. It's the 5 and 6-year-olds. Now, if you think you're doing a talk to the class of MBAs, that's one thing. 5 and 6-year-olds, most unforgiving audience in the world. There's no filter. They're going to tell you exactly how rubbish you really are. I walk in, there's 50 of them sitting cross-legged in beautiful uniforms. You could have heard a feather drop. She says, can you do a 10-minute talk? I speak for 10 minutes. They were so engaged and gave me a beautiful round of applause, which I'd worked so hard for over 10 minutes. Then they went in groups of 3 into the assembly room. There were about 10 stations. There was an all uniformed ambulance guys, firemen, NHS, fitness trainers in their tracksuits from the local gym. And they went in groups of 3 to be told about a career in the NHS, a career in the Navy. It was spellbinding. They listened, they asked questions. When I was leaving, the head teacher came up to me and she said, thank you. No one's too young to have a dream about their careers. You've enabled them to remain focused until they're 18. Thank you so much. Wrong assumptions. What did that teach me? So now I live in a world where take nothing for granted. Challenge everything. Anything can work if you put the right ingredients in. And that day, 5 and 6-year-olds, Pete. But, it was tougher than speaking to the board of Credit Suisse, and more fulfilling than speaking to the board of Credit Suisse.
Generally, 5 and 6-year-olds, what are they? They want to know what you drive. That's generally a good.
Do you know the thing is, what I realised is, and I remember there was a young girl, Grace. She greeted me, and I remember blonde-haired, blue-eyed, one of her front teeth missing. And when I came in, she said to me, just spontaneously, she walked up, she said, good morning, Mr. Carayol. Please follow me. When I finished, she led me back out, and her mum was there. And she ran over to her mum. She said, that was Mr. Carayol. He spoke to us about careers. I want to be a fireman. You couldn't buy it, could you? You just couldn't buy it. And I just said to myself, wow. Wow, 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 wow.
What advice would you give to your 5 or 6-year-old self, or younger self anyway?
I just wish someone had shown me, had helped me better understand what leadership was from the outset. I intercepted it in my 20s, late 20s. I wish it had been in my early teens, or even before that. You're never too young to understand leadership. You're never too young to become a leader. And as we're seeing today with the likes of Marcus Rashford, you're never too young to be a leader. And once you get that underneath you and inside of you, we can all be leaders. Every one of us can be leaders if we choose to be. It's not a bunch of skills, it's a mindset and an attitude. Everyone can be a leader if they choose to be. And you know, there's only one thing worse than no leadership, and that's poor leadership. And we're seeing a little bit too much of that today. But you know what they say? Good leaders create followers, great leaders create leaders. We've got to be in the business of creating leaders.
Mm. Do you think, I mean, overall, are you where you're supposed to be now?
I think so. I think so. I think, so through all the fantastic mentors I've had, I'm spending a lot of my time mentoring a generation that is going to do more than we did. I worry that through the pandemic and through other things happening, we're taking away some of their life chances. This is the generation. They're brighter, smarter, more joined together, but they've been through more issues than any other generation before. But I think that if we can all realize as parents, as an older generation, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We can't pass the baton or wait for anyone else. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Let's be the leaders we want to follow. It's us. It's down to, I found the issue. I found the opportunity. Both are us. Let's grasp this, because we can. But the bit that I think, so in my experience, since the pandemic, three things people are looking for: clarity, certainty, and hope. In a time of uncertainty, in unprecedented times, everyone wants that little bit more clarity, a lot more certainty, and a whole bunch of hope. And what I feel really strongly that in the tough times, despair is so easily accessed. Hope is that much harder. If as leaders, the only thing we bring to our people, to our teams, and those we serve is hope, then we've done our job already.
It's an unusual hope. I mean, it has positive or negative connotation, not necessarily negative. I mean,
it's negative. I've got a lot of work to do with you, Pete.
I don't know. I suppose I'm thinking, you know, is when you look at hope or faith, do you know what I mean? It's kind of.
I didn't link the two. I did not link the two.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what.
Let me take away from there. I would say, look, to wake up every day, despairing what's going to happen to you. No one wants to be there. To wake up every day, realizing that things could be better, gets you springing out of bed. And I think our role as leaders is to be that bit more optimistic. Who wants to work for the pessimist? Answer: no one. Some realism, some optimism, some yes, we can. We're stronger together. Let's lean on each other, look after each other, look out for each other. We may not win the battle today. We're going to make a dent in it. And when we finish that day, we're going to stay optimistic about tomorrow. And we're never, ever going to give up. Quitting's easy. Getting up and continuing, especially when we look at the challenges that the pandemic is giving us. You know, if you keep looking at the numbers, and if you've got people close to your loved ones, if your loved ones, you're losing some and they're in a tough place, that's hard to remain positive and optimistic about. So, you know, I've got one of my neighbours, Michelle. Michelle could moan for England. She just, pessimism, she's got this down to a fine art. And I'm at the gate the other day and we're standing at the gate and she says, I knew I was going to get another dose. She's getting on a bit. We all love Michelle and I look out for her. And she's widowed and kids have left home many years ago. So we just look out for it. So, but I'm getting my dose of moaning. She's about minute 10 now. And she says, postman. Have you noticed the postman is later and later every day? And would you believe at that moment, up walks Pete, the postman. I said, Pete, Michelle tells me we're getting later and later every day. And he looks a bit sheepish. He says, yeah, it's true. She said, I told you. She's just about to go. I said, hang on a minute. Why? This is Roger at number 88. He's getting on a bit and his eyesight's failing him. So instead of just delivering his mail now, I go inside, I read him his mail. That's why I'm a little late every day. Michelle's gone by now. You didn't need to hear that bit. She's gone. And I think a little bit of optimism every day, a little bit of hope. And that little act of fantastic kindness. And we can all wait a few minutes more for our mail if Pete's doing something so great. And what I do, I ensure I retell the story. So none of the other neighbours complain now. They feel quite the opposite now. It's a bit more hope. Just that bit more hope. They've seen someone go out of their way, they may go out of their way to help someone else. Hope counts.
Very, very true. I love that. What are you capable of? What's your potential?
You know, as they say, you can't measure potential. I'm of that vintage now where I do it now. I think what's great now is that I no longer need authorization to proceed. I no longer need permission. I'm old enough and ugly enough just to go and do it now. And it's amazing as I watch those members in my team who are much younger, as I give them permission and authorization to do it. And I suppose where I see myself is all the things I might have done, all the things I could have done, all the things I missed out on doing. I ensure they have the opportunity to do them even better than I would have tackled them. And when you move away from being the operator, I'm now the coach. I'm the sponsor, I'm the champion, I'm the advocate. And creating environments where they can flourish, creating environments where they can achieve, creating environments where they can learn, creating environments where the only mistake is the one they don't learn from. Guess what that makes me feel? It's fabulous. Fabulous. And it feels as though when they achieve, I've got a multiple achievement.
I love that. I'm toying with the idea of writing a book at the moment, Midlife Opportunity. And it seems to be that, as you say, whether it's the likes of yourself from a coaching role, giving people permission, perceived permission, let's say.
So here's some permission for you. Go write that book. Everyone has a book in it. Go write, stop thinking about it, go do it. You watch how that pen will flow. If you've been thinking about it for some time, just go do it.
But isn't it amazing how, whether it be a coach, whether it be you get to a stage in your life where you just drop the baggage, you just go, enough.
Do you know, it's interesting, it's coming earlier and earlier in our lives. I think, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You will find it the most liberating thing in the world, and you will realize that you can write. You can do this. You've got a story to tell. And everyone has a story that's worth listening to. Not many people give themselves the time to tell that story. Go tell that story.
I love it. I remember years ago, I say years, and I can't remember the actual production date, Pay Off Your Mortgage in 2 years. And that's when I first came across yourself.
Do you know, there's a decent story there because the BBC had been filming for 6 months when they decided that the presenter, who was a financial expert, she wasn't really a good enough coach. She could answer every question, but she wasn't a coach. And it was this multifaceted role that you need to be able to coach, have a bit of a TV presence. So I took it over when 6 months filming had already been done. So it's Pay Off Your Mortgage in 18 months. And we went back, refilmed, and we did it in 18 months. I mean, it was exhilarating. It was tough work. So 10 different couples, singles or couples, trying to get some of them to pay off their mortgage. We ended up, 2 dropped out, so there was 8, and 6 paid off their mortgage in 18 months. But it wasn't about finances. It was about leadership. It was about coaching, getting them to believe that they could. If you get people to believe they can pay off their mortgage in 18 months, nothing's impossible.
It is. It's just everything, isn't it? Really, there's so many things, and I suppose whether it be the CEO or the people next door, it's confidence, it's leadership, it's permission, it's concepts, ideas, it's taking action, right?
And you can see it from the school teachers, the football coaches, the chief executives, anyone who gets a group of people together, forget age, forget faith, gets a group of people together, gets an overarching vision or mission or purpose, then creates the environment where they can achieve. And the role of the leader is not to lay down the tablets of stone. It's not the strategy. It's the culture. It's what do we stand for? The way we get things done around here. And creating an environment where people want to give you even more. Create an environment where people feel trusted, where they feel valued, they feel recognized. 3 men working on a building site in the burning sun. The journalist comes to the first one, and then they're breaking rocks, dripping in sweat. It's the toughest work you've ever seen. Journalist comes first and says, why do you do this job? I haven't worked for 3 years. I took the first job I could get. Goes, second, why do you do this job? I've got a wife and 3 kids to feed. I took the first job I could get. Goes, third, why do you do this job? Wipes the sweat off his brow, leans on his shovel and smiles proudly and says, I'm helping to build a cathedral. I'm helping to build a cathedral. Mosque, synagogue, or temple, depending on where you are. But the role of the leader is to get everyone to believe, no matter how menial, manual, repetitive their job is, they're part of something special. And they have you to believe it. You don't do it every month, you don't do it every week, you do it every day. You remind them you're part of something special. You're building the stained glass windows. You're helping to build the spire. But that's the role of today's leader. Clarity, certainty, hope.
I'm curious how people get on after they paid off the mortgage. It's a bit like retirement. It was kind of, when you hit your goals sometimes, do you sort of wonder what to do next?
Well, if you remember at the time, some I had a carrot, others I had a stick. Those with the carrot lived happily ever after. The others kept looking for the stick. If I had to prod, cajole, challenge every day, that meant that they weren't going to do it on their own. Mm. Those that just needed a nudge, a vision, some confidence, they went on. And a few of them I'm still friends with today. And just met some really wonderful people who did the things that others said couldn't be done. And lo and behold, it's that word leadership again. And in a way, that was where the whole coaching thing came out on TV. To coach people to believe in themselves.
It was such a powerful, and I think as I said, that the couple there that had the hot pods, Anne
and Lucy, they're still my friends today.
Fantastic.
What a fabulous couple with 2 amazing sons, and both their sons decided to go to university, do amazing things, and they're both back in Cornwall. I mean, it's 2 of my favorite people. Nothing beats friendship, does it? And we could not have been more opposite. But just really, really wonderful people. Mm. As I say that, when you get to my vintage, I've been lucky enough to meet people from all walks of life. And I suppose coming back to the Black Lives Matter, it's never been about race. And I think that The best friendships in the world get beyond race, beyond gender, beyond disability, beyond faith, beyond. We just need more of us to understand how wonderful that really is. And, you know, and diversity and inclusion and belonging, if I look at, there's a generation now where there is no other way. And there's an older generation that needs to better understand it's the best way. Everybody in, nobody out.
Mm. So powerful. What's on your bucket list, René?
I want to travel again.
It's itchy fingers.
Oh, itchy feet. I spend three trips a week to Heathrow Airport, traveling everywhere all the time. This is the longest I've not been to Heathrow. You know, it's I went to Amsterdam to do the stuff with Ralph Hammers in August, but that's since March, and we're experiencing yet another lockdown. This is solitary confinement. I need to break out. My bucket list is, let me out of here. Let's travel again. We opened up the office 3-4 weeks ago, just missed that camaraderie and the social interaction. And we're having to close it down again. This is not a great moment. But as I said, who wants to work for the pessimist? We will get through this. We're heading for the exit. And we're going to think about what do we continue to do? What are we going to do differently? And just can't wait. The exit will come. It'll come sooner than we think. The world will change, but only for the better.
What opportunities have you found have spurned out of this?
I think a lot. I think we've got to know ourselves a little better. There's been moments of self-reflection. We've got to understand our home lives again. We've reacquainted ourselves with the people that really matter. We've had the opportunity to rethink what work means to us, how we compartmentalize it, how we take it forward. We've had an opportunity to know what we don't need. That's been interesting. Lots of things the material things that we realize, do we really need that? We've looked at how we commute, how we travel. We've got to better understand who's really important to us. And we've got a refreshing change in America. Yes. And I think change, the amount of change that's going on in the world is good for all of us. Mm-hmm. Well, we've got to ensure that lots of things are changing. Some of them a bit scary, but we can intervene. And I like to think that, look, this is very clear to me. I want to live in a world where we've all got an equal chance. I want to live in a world where the colour of your skin doesn't matter. The way you worship doesn't matter. The way you love doesn't matter. And if you do have a disability, let's look for your spike. What I want to see in everyone is what you're brilliant at. I want to celebrate it. And if you're different to me, I want to celebrate that. And there's nothing more powerful for all of us than being surrounded by people who are different to us, who enable us to see the world through a different lens. And for me, it's an exciting time that we are different, but that's our strength. And let's not forget that. And to me, the more interactions I have with people who are different to me, they can share with me a way of life I don't understand and something I've not learned before. How exciting is that?
So very, very true. What's a guilty pleasure for you, René?
What's what, sorry?
What's a guilty pleasure? Or a pleasure, whatever way you choose to put. Take away the guilt.
Do you know, it's sometimes I like to see the transformation in people, especially if I had a little part to play. So many people believe they couldn't, and watch them as they do, and then watch them when they can really run, when they're, I take this horrible guilty pleasure of standing at the back of the auditorium when someone I've had the opportunity to mentor, coach, support, walks on stage without fear, speaks from the heart without notes, has the audience in the palm of their hand, and inspires the audience to be who they want to be. There's nothing better when you know you had that little bit to play. We worked with Lillian Bayliss School in Streatham in the south of London. Gary, the head teacher, got me and my team to come and set up a mentoring scheme. Because they're young lads and girls, we do all the mentoring on site. I ended up mentoring one of the 15-year-olds. She's fantastic. But she said to me, could I teach her confidence? She wanted the spike of confidence. She didn't have the spike of confidence. And when we met, she always come in with her rucksack held in the front with her arms through it this way around. So protecting her from me was this rucksack. She had a hijab. She was 15, polite, charming, and Gary told me she was the highest achiever in the school, but shy, soft-spoken, introverted. We met 2 or 3 times, and she kept saying, I want the spike of confidence. So I said to her, go home and ask your friends and family what your spikes are. When we met the next time, again, really shy, head down, they gave me some useless information. What was the useless information? They said, I'm generous, I'm kind, I always care for people. That's useless. What sort of spikes are they? I want some real spikes. I want geography and confidence, please. The next time we met, something had changed. The rucksack was on her back this time. She skipped into the room, sat down, couldn't stop beaming. I said, what's up? She said, I really like my spikes. So remind, what are your spikes? Generous, kind to people, they care about people. And I thought he said they were useless. No, they're great. They're really, really great. As she jumped up and skipped out again. Once the message in there is, catch people doing things right. We spend far too much time catching people doing things wrong. Understand their spikes, recognize them, praise them, set them on their way. Catch people doing things right.
So powerful. It is. Find your spike. That's all about.
Find out what you're great at. As soon as you understand what your spikes are, you power yourself beyond any limitation.
How would you summarize your fire in the valley then?
I'm an old romantic. And I've got this incurable disease. There's always some people out there who are better than you. They just need a little bit of help from you. A little bit of intervention. And if we can find people who don't quite believe in themselves, we give them that little bit of self-belief, that little bit of hope. That's our job. We're the leaders that we want to be. Just go and find someone to believe in today.
I love it. It's so powerful. And listen, I thank you for your time. I want to be respectful here. And listen, there's so many great insights there. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing.
I've enjoyed speaking to you. And let me leave a message for everyone. And I hope you've picked up this theme. We're not going to get anything by being cautious. This is a time to step out of our safety zone, step out of our comfort zone. If you're bold, you might fail. If you're not bold, you will fail. It's been fabulous talking to you.
René, thank you so much.
Thanks, Pete. Look after yourself, man.